In 2026, Aylesbury High Street celebrates its 200th anniversary, and this is its story. By the early 1820s, Aylesbury was growing as an important market town, but the main turnpike from London ended at Walton, leaving travellers to negotiate the final stretch into town on a less direct route. To improve access and speed up journeys, Parliament passed an Act in 1823 allowing the Sparrows Herne Turnpike Trust to build a new road directly into Aylesbury. Completed in 1826, the extension transformed the town's eastern approach, creating a straighter, more efficient route for stagecoaches, traders and local traffic, while becoming the gateway into Aylesbury for decades to come. We'll begin by looking at how Aylesbury looked before the road was put in. This map from the early 1800s shows there was no direct route to Aylesbury from Tring. The road then took a left turn just after Broughton Pastures and made its way through Walton. In 1825 the route was finalised and this plan was drawn up. Let's have a closer look at it. Starting from the road to London, it crosses the fields belonging to Mr March, Mr Grace, Mr Bell, Mrs Harrison, Joseph Rose, Reverend Isaac Bull, where it crosses what was later Park Street, and the Canal and Bear Brook, and then through the fields of Thomas Tyndall, Lord Carrington, William Rickford, and a meadow belonging to Mr Pitches called Hale Lees. The new road then took the rough form of a lane that was already there, which passed Hale Lees Chapel, going straight through the Crown Inn and into Market Square. The builder of the road was James Bull of Tring, who agreed a price of £315 for the work. This document shows the cost of compensation, which starts by listing all the parcels of land, and then the various properties which had to be demolished. Then there were the costs of building the toll house, the Canal Bridge and Bear Brook Bridge, and various other things required for the building of a road. The total costs were around £11,000, which is the equivalent of around £900,000 today. Construction of the road began in the autumn of 1825, and it was at this time that the affected businesses had to sell up before the demolition of their premises. This continued into early 1826, and here they were selling off the entire materials of 6 houses. These would have been the ones in front of the Crown Inn, facing Market Square. In March of 1827, the Crown Inn was for sale. A large part of this property had to be demolished to allow the new road into Market Square. In April 1827, I found mention of the first accident on New Road, where farmer Joseph Kingham fell off his horse and injured himself quite badly. In October 1829, this 6-bedroom house was for sale, along with some pasture land next to it. This is where the post office and other buildings would later be built. Also mentioned in the sale is Hale Lees Close, which was on the opposite side. In March 1830, some more land was for sale at Hale Lees Close. Also in March 1830, the Chandos Arms is mentioned in this notice to let. In October 1831, the Chandos Arms was up for sale, along with 7 buildings adjoining it. And it does mention that they were newly erected, so these could well be the first buildings to be built on New Road. On the 2nd of November 1835, we get the first mention of a proposed railway coming to Aylesbury. On the 10th of June 1839, the Aylesbury Railway opened. It was a wonderful day of celebration in the town. Moving on to October 1856, Aylesbury Burial Board were asking for tenders to drain a piece of land which would become the cemetery in 1858. Now we've reached the 1850s, we can now look at old photographs to see how the road changed over the decades. This one dates from the 1850s and is looking down the road from the Market Square end. On the right is the Crown Inn. This is Hale Lees Chapel, probably in the 1860s. It was founded in 1707 for the Presbyterians, but altered and enlarged in 1818 after it became an independent chapel. In 1874 it was demolished and the Congregational Church was built on its site. This is looking up New Road in about 1865 from the Canal Bridge. This is near the top of the road looking towards town in the late 1860s. The large property on the left is the one I think that was for sale in 1829 with the 6 bedrooms. This was already there before the new road was formed. This view from around 1870 shows how well established the road is at that time. And on the right, Howley's Chapel is just visible. In 1870, a condensed milk factory opened at the bottom of New Road. It was later taken over by the Anglo-Swiss Company, and after some time, it was again taken over by Nestlé. In 1874, Howley's Chapel was demolished, and the Congregational Church was built on its site. In 1878, the printing works of Hazel Watson and Viney opened on the corner of Tring Road and Walton Road. The firm would become the largest employer in the town. This is the original railway station at the bottom of Station Street. This is just before the station closed and moved to its new site on New Road in 1889. The Railway Tavern was located near the station on Station Street. This was in direct competition with the Star Hotel and the Prince of Wales nearby. The Railway Tavern closed in 1921 and the licence was transferred to the Hop Pole on Bicester Road. This is the top end of New Road looking towards Market Square in the late 1880s. It's a recognisable view, even though most of the buildings here have been replaced by modern ones. In 1892, New Road became High Street. By the late 1890s, the printing works of Hazel Watson and Viney had expanded somewhat. Here we can see the addition of A Block on the left and the single-storey machine hall just in front of it. This is another view of the printing works from the late 1890s and is viewed from Tring Road. This is looking down High Street in 1897. The large shop front on the left was Longley & Sons Furniture and Drapery Store. This is a gathering of the Licensed Victuallers Association in 1905 outside the Chandos Hotel. Here is a good view of High Street Station. It was moved to this site from Station Street in 1889. This Edwardian view of High Street shows that many of the buildings still had their front gardens. Another Edwardian view of the High Street, and on the right we can see the post office, which opened in 1889. This view of the bottom of the High Street in about 1905 shows the new boundary wall of the Nestlé factory. And here's a view of the factory with an Aylesbury steam laundry pony and trap passing by. This is High Street Bridge in 1906. Due to safety concerns, the original bridge had to be rebuilt. It opened in 1894. In this view from around 1910, we can see that the shops are creeping down the street. This is the Vale of Aylesbury tennis courts in around 1910. This land would later become Vale Park. It's July 1914, and these are volunteers marching down High Street on their way to Halton. This view of Tring Road from around 1915 looks so quiet without any cars. This is the very top of High Street in the 1920s. We get a good view of the Crown Hotel here, showing the original Tudor part on the right, with the 1820s building adjoining it. That was built where the gateway used to be. Sadly, this hotel was entirely demolished in the 1930s, and the licence was transferred to the Crown Tavern at the rear. Hazel Watson and Viney's Memorial Garden was laid out between 1919 and 1920. This piece of ground on the corner of Walton Road and High Street was where the toll house originally stood. This is looking towards town from the Canal Bridge in the 1920s. An unusual scene of a World War I tank driving up High Street on its way to Kingsbury in March 1920. In March 1925, the Pavilion Theatre opened in High Street. This aerial view from 1927 shows Queen's Park at the bottom, with the Nestlé factory in Park Street at the top. In April 1932, F.W. Walworth & Co. opened their High Street store. In 1937, Vale Park opened. This is a Pavilion Theatre in 1939, after recently being enlarged. The pavilion was renamed to the Granada in 1947. By 1947, High Street was a very busy place. a taxi at the bottom of High Street in the 1940s. This is Tring Road filling station in January 1953. It was on the corner of Queen Street. On the 31st of January 1953, the Aylesbury to Cheddington line closed to passengers. The line was used for goods for another 10 years before being dismantled. This is the junction of Exchange Street in 1958. Frith's builders merchants were at Hilda Wharf just by the canal bridge on High Street, and this was their new showroom in 1958. A tranquil scene from May 1960. Ivart's shoe shop on the left was one of many in the town. In August 1962, Queen Elizabeth II came through Aylesbury. This incredible shot from December 1970 shows a post office being demolished. The top end of High Street in 1974. This was just before the old bank was demolished. Hampden House nearing completion in April 1975. Below it, on the right, are the remains of the old High Street station. In April 1981, the construction of Herald shopping centre was well underway, which required the demolition of most of the United Reformed Church. All that was left was the tower, and that was incorporated into the new building. Later in 1981, Halfords and W.H. Smith opened their shops. In February 1983, Herald shopping centre was finished, and offices were to let above it. This building next to the post office with the mock Tudor facade was that 6-bedroom property that was for sale in 1829. This view from October 1983 shows it just before its demolition. There was more demolition in 1984. This was at Hazel Watson and Viney's site on Tring Road. In December 1986, UBM Building Supplies opened their new showroom by Hilda Wharf. This is one of the last views of High Street before it was pedestrianised in 1987. Here we see the upper part of the street being prepared for block paving in March 1987. By April 1987, most of the paving was done. This is what replaced the old building next to the post office, McDonald's fast food restaurant, and this is how it looked in June 1988. In January 1990, there was a major fire at Narberth's shop. It was a sad end to the business which had been in the town since 1914. This view from March 1996 shows the new Abbey National Bank next to Hale Lee's shopping centre. That later became Santander. Superdrug and the very popular Curtis Pet and Garden store in February 2000. 3 other popular shops in February 2000 were Dennis's Saddlery and Riding Wear, Valerie's Florists, and QD Discount Store. This is looking up the street in 2001. A view of the Dayler site in December 2003. At the end of 2004, the Nestlé factory was demolished. This view is from February 2012. A farmer's market in High Street in August 2012. This is the top of High Street in May 2015. At the start of 2025, demolition of the old Gala Bingo Hall began. It was formerly the Granada Theatre and the Pavilion. By November 2025, the Pavilion Quarter was created in its place. It is currently a walkway leading to a car park, but more is planned for the site in the future.